Welcome to another episode of AI Product Leader, where every week we shine a light on what it really takes to join the AI world. Real conversations with real AI builders, founders, product leaders, AI experts, technologists, and everything in between to understand where the world of AI is right now and what that path looks like, whether you're building AI products or a career in AI. Have a question or topic? Email us at support@aicareerboost.com to join in on the conversation. I'm your host, Polly Allen. I'm the founder of AI Career Boost, where I spend my time helping product managers and leaders navigate the world of AI and transition into roles leading and thriving leading AI projects. I've spent my career on both the product management and software development side of the software world, and I'm an ex-Alexa principal product manager, where I successfully launched the first generative AI answers on Alexa back in 2020. I was a top 100 Women of the Future winner, and I'm super excited to be here today to share my learnings and those of those I know in the AI world. And I'm especially glad today to be joined by our esteemed guest, Ailian Gan, a visionary product leader who has left an indelible mark on the tech industry, with an illustrious career spanning from the halls of Singapore's central bank to the innovative frontiers of AI at Zoom and now Grammarly. Ailian brings a wealth of experience and unique perspective to the world of product management. Her journey through investment banking at Goldman Sachs, social impact investment, and her pivotal roles at tech startups has equipped her with a rare blend of financial acumen and technological insight. And as the former lead product manager of AI at Zoom, Ailian was the original PM who launched the meeting summary feature and owned the Zoom AI companion strategy and roadmap. And now, as the director of product at Grammarly, she stands at the forefront of artificial intelligence integration in everyday tools, shaping the future of how we communicate and collaborate in the digital age. Welcome, Ailian. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Polly. I'm thrilled to be here, and thank you for the very generous introduction.
No problem. So before we start, delving into the world of AI, you have a really interesting background for someone who is now an AI product leader. Can you tell us a little bit more about your career before you delved into AI?
Yeah, sure. So I started my career. So first of all, I don't have a computer science background, but have actually worked on products that have varying degrees of technicality over time. So I started my career in finance, of all things. Had a stint at the central bank in Singapore. I'm from Singapore originally, and then I did investment banking for a while, which was the greatest job until it was not for me. And then I went to business school at Wharton, and going into business school, I looked a little bit at VC for a while because anybody who had my profile in finance was looking at VC. And the more I looked at that world, I became very curious about what it would be like to actually be an operator at a startup. So coming out of business school, that was when I made my first steps into tech. I joined a small startup that was a Series B, about 30 or so employees. And I joined, the company's called Bloomreach, and it works in the search and personalization space for large e-commerce companies, mostly at the time. And so people always want to know, like, how do you become a PM? So I'll share my little story as one little anecdote. So the company was hiring for it was a hybrid role. It was a mix of a customer success role and a PM role. So the head of product was looking specifically for people who actually came from banking and consulting backgrounds, which is rare, but they wanted a skill set where you were highly analytical, but also familiar with how to build client relationships. So the title was product engagement manager, and I had this hybrid role where I had a portfolio of customers to manage, and also had some product responsibilities. And as the company grew, I had a chance to either keep going in the customer success side or on the product side. And I raised my hand for products on the basis that I really like building things, like hanging out and talking to engineers, like customers too. But engineers were kind of I felt like that was the sweet spot for me, and then grew my career in product from there ever since.
Oh, fascinating. So for folks who are looking to transition into product, do you think startups are the best space to start? Like that was obviously what you choose. Did you consider something else? Would you consider something else now?
Oh, that's an interesting question. So having worked at a couple of early stage places, and then Zoom, which is a public company, and then now Grammarly, which is still private but very late stage. So I've kind of actually now have done the range. I would say that the nice thing about starting at an early stage startup is that they tend to have slightly more generic roles. I think larger companies expect you to have exactly the kind of experience that they're looking for. Whereas there's a bit more flexibility and fluidity and a little bit more like generalist in some of these startup roles. So if you don't have the exact 5 years of experience and 2 years of this and 3 years of that coming in, I think you might find a few more interesting pockets of opportunities in startups. That's my theory anyway.
Yeah, no, and obviously it has worked out for you. And then your path into AI is super interesting. Obviously, as I mentioned in the intro, you've led some very, I think everyone's familiar with the AI meeting summary, Zoom's AI companion, very far-reaching features, etc., in the space. How did you get started in AI?
Yeah, so let's talk about that entry point. So I spent a little over 3 years at Zoom, and my first couple of years I was actually on the meetings team, which is still a relatively small PM team relative to the size of the product and how big it is in the world. So on the meetings team, I had large scope, worked on all kinds of interesting parts of the product, and then this was an interesting transition point. This is about a year and a half ago, where I was actually coming back from maternity leave. And in the time that I was out on parental leave, there were a lot of changes in the company. There were, as with many companies in that time of tech, I think there were reorgs, there were leadership changes, and lots of changes going on. So I think to be a little candid, I was looking to grow my career in the meeting side, but because of all these changes that had happened in the time that I was out, instead I got asked to join the then newly formed AI team at Zoom. Zoom had AI efforts for many years by then, but a new leader was put in charge of AI at Zoom, who became my manager, the head of AI at Zoom. So it was kind of a combination of a lot of change, me wanting one thing but being asked to try something else out. And at the time, it just seemed, why wouldn't you take the call and go learn something in AI? So all this is to say that I think as people are looking for opportunities to get into AI, I think if you don't have prior official AI experience, then some kind of an internal transfer might be a path for some of us. And I think it's always good to keep in mind that I think my father used to say this, where like the best way to get the job you want is sometimes to do a great job at the job you already have. So much as I think people looking to get into AI should learn about AI technologies and gain the right skills for it. If you're going to be an AI PM, a lot of the job is still being a PM. And people shouldn't lose sight of the fact that AI is one of the skills of being an AI PM, but PM is still the bulk of the skills of the job.
I think that's so true. That's so true that it's like we maybe saw a shift when ChatGPT first came out to this like technology-led kind of view of the world, but I think things are shifting or have already shifted back to like your first job is a PM and your second part is that AI depth. I'd love to hear more about some of the projects you worked on at Zoom. Did you have any particular favorite ones or ones that were particularly challenging?
Yeah, so I would love to talk more about Zoom's meeting summarization feature. It is near and dear to my heart. It's actually something that I worked on when I was still on the meetings team, and basically in my transition to joining the AI team, I just brought the feature along with me and kept working on it. So I think looking back, it's one of those features where it feels obvious to launch. And what I love about it is if you think about how AI is being applied right now, because the technology is so novel and powerful, you keep having this hammer looking for a nail problem. And everybody's trying to find good nails, and meeting summarization is a perfectly good nail that checks a lot of boxes. It's something that people want anyway. It's something that LLMs can do relatively well compared to everything else. And interestingly, like it is not a chatbot, which is also interesting in the area of AI.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That would have
So
been interesting too, because you were looking at that feature. Was the meeting summary one of the first sort of generative AI features in Zoom?
yeah, yeah. I think yeah. I mean, there are other AI features, but in terms of generative AI, it was pretty much the first generative AI for Zoom to launch. And yeah, so I think thinking back, like what's challenging or interesting about the feature, a few things stand out. Like out of the gate, I think quality and hallucinations and so on are your first concern. But that can be the engineering team could improve quality relatively quickly, and get to the point where you felt like it accurately captured the conversation you're having, it understood things correctly. There is a part of meeting summarization that is called the next steps module, has its own interesting challenges because like how do you highlight what is an action item in a call? If I say that I will present blah 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 later on in this call, like that's not an action item. So we have to go through quite a few iterations to figure out what sounds like an action item. Given that it's LLM based, like it's not heuristics based. There are no magical phrases that you can say to trigger it. Yet we have to infer from your natural presentation and conversation that this is probably an action item. So these things are interesting to solve that we had to figure out over time.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's so much ambiguity in the nature of human, behavior, and then there's so much ambiguity that you have to resolve around the AI. Did you have like a lot of data to work with these summaries? Did you guys have to create them?
Yeah, so on the data side, I think it's a mixture of so first of all, Zoom does not train on customer data. I have to say that because that's an important part of Zoom's positioning, where there's no opt in opt out. Like we just flat out do not train on customer data. So the data is instead acquired through various public sources, some private sources, and other methods of generating data, but it's just not based on customer data. So that to improve quality, sometimes you change the prompt, sometimes you fine tune the model, sometimes you actually go scrub the data to get the kind of quality that you want. The other thing that's interesting about Zoom's approach is that they take what is called a federated approach to the models, to the LLMs that are used for Zoom's features. Rather than just use GPT or Claude or an internal model, Zoom has actually used a mix of different models for different features over time. So that's been interesting to work with as well.
Oh, interesting. And the speaking still about the data, I think it's interesting right now. A lot of companies are struggling to gain maybe adoption of internal processes because users are failing to trust those systems. I thought you might have a unique perspective on the high bar you need to clear for user trust in order for people to trust it. Do you have any tips for people on how to make AI something that their customers can trust?
Yeah. I think that's a great question. I think that in talking to customers, especially the bigger corporate enterprise type customers, there's a lot of excitement and a lot of fear around AI because they want it, but they don't want to share data and so on. So there are a few principles that we built over time, and one of them is being very transparent to the user when AI is running in the meeting. And the more we thought, so if you start Zoom's meeting summary, there's a banner that notifies you, and then there's a little sparkle icon that indicates at any time when that shows you at any point when AI is running in the meeting, so that you're always assured that you know what's going on. So like that transparency around AI, I think, is an important principle. And then one of the features that we shipped once we received more user feedback is a kill switch style feature. So in meeting summary, you've all been there where you talk about one thing and then you kind of meander into something that's a little bit sensitive, and then you go, oh no, meeting summary is still running, and we don't want this to go out to the entire group of invitees. So you can now turn off the AI, and not just turn off, but you also have an option to delete the artifacts to make sure there's no transcript and no summary that gets sent out. So there are now these additional controls that come in place. So I think as a principle, in addition to transparency, giving the user control over how the AI is interacting with their workflow is an important principle as well.
That's right. I think it just takes, you get bitten once by a feature like that.
Yes.
It takes a long
Yes.
time to come
Yes.
back, I'm sure.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you had to navigate a lot of technical decisions as well. So everything from navigating, trying out different models and experimenting with different models and reducing those hallucinations, as well as figuring out the ambiguity between users' intent and what you want to record in the summary, etc. When you were first starting out, you didn't have a background in AI. How did you tackle that challenge of coming up to speed enough to be a good partner for your engineering and computer science teams?
Yeah, this is a good question. I think for anybody out there who's interested in AI but feels they don't have the background, I want to remind them that we are still in such early days in AI that most people don't know very much at all. And there's so much there's yeah, I mean, some people have been working on it for 10 years or whatever it is, and then there are experts and non-experts, but for most people who are in the field, like it is still so new to them, and it is changing so much. So to just jump in wherever they are, to start to read more about it, understand the basic concepts, take a few courses here and there if you're interested, or just like you can start with something as simple as just trying to use ChatGPT every single day in creative ways and paying attention to how it can be useful to you, and having an I think if you want to be an AI PM, developing an intuition for what LLMs can or cannot do at this stage is a big deal. Because it will sound like it can do many things, but there are nuances of what it will do well and nuances of what it will do terribly that you should be aware and cautious about. So I think just reading a lot about AI, playing around with it, getting that kind of hands-on experience, even though it's just like a pet project or a side project for you, I think can actually take you a pretty long way to help you become more of an expert in this area.
Oh yeah, that's getting hands-on is so key. Is there anything you've run into your travels where AI surprised you, either by being better at something than you thought or worse at something than you thought?
Oh, that's an interesting one. I would say that it has surprised me. Well, I think it has surprised me. I love hearing about how other people are using ChatGPT. Yeah, yeah. So I use it myself, but my uses are okay. And but I love hearing other people's stories. So actually, like it's become my favorite icebreaker. When I do like a team event, I'll ask people like, "What is the last interesting use of ChatGPT that you have?" And somebody had a great one the other day. This is an engineer on my current team. He said he has these fruit trees, and they had some kind of a problem. So he took photos of where he thought the problem was with the tree, and he asked ChatGPT to diagnose what was wrong with the tree, and then it gave him a helpful solution.
Oh my gosh, it's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, so that kind of a diagnosis of like it sounds so obscure, and I love that he thought to do that, and that it actually gave him a helpful response of like, this is what is probably wrong with your tree, and here is how to fix it. So that was pretty
Oh,
cool.
fantastic. I know, right? It's a case of like having it handy to actually try things that you wouldn't necessarily think to try otherwise. Especially if I find myself going, I'd Google this, but I don't know what to Google.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes that could really help. Um, Now, before we move on to the best ways to gain those kinds of experiences, I did want to talk about platform PMs versus feature PMs. I thought you had a really unique experience because when you were at Zoom, you were owning the roadmap as kind of the platform team that owned the companion experience. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that worked in terms of your role versus feature PM's roles?
Yeah, I think this is an interesting setup because I think typically when people think about platform PMs, you think of them operating as a layer in the stack, and typically they sit closest to a particular layer of technology, and maybe they work with APIs and so on. That wasn't quite our setup. The AI PM team at Zoom is relatively small, and we own the strategy and roadmap for Zoom AI Companion, which is the Zoom AI feature suite. But we had to execute this roadmap through partnering with the feature area PMs in meetings, in chat, in email, in whiteboard, and so on. So in some cases, we would directly own features. In some cases, we owned and then handed off at some point. In other cases, the feature area PMs would drive and develop the AI feature, and we would play a consulting role to them. So they had all these different relationships, and in addition to that, it was also part of our responsibility to make sure that there was consistency across the AI Companion feature suite. Whether it's in the UX or whether it's how we handle certain privacy and legal issues, we wanted to make sure that whoever was working on these features, that we had a consistent experience across the board.
Gotcha. That makes sense. It feels like someone, especially making sure that like policies that would involve user trust are definitely stuck to like one central team that's responsible for checking that. Now, so you were the AI PM, that was a platform PM team at Zoom. You were saying at Grammarly, there is no AI PM team or even an AI PM role, right? It's a little bit different setup.
Yeah, so for Grammarly, and Grammarly has been doing AI for years and years, and so I think Grammarly is interestingly AI native in a way that is hard for other companies to replicate. So in the current setup that we have here, every PM has to operate as an AI PM. That you might own a certain feature area, or you might own a certain part of the product. But AI is so incorporated into all parts of the product that you just have to have that background and that intuition and that familiarity with AI in your role, which is pretty cool. Which actually I think we might get to the point where this is how it works in most companies. Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
It'd be interesting, but it's interesting now more and more that just AI is becoming table stakes for product management. Incredible. So for those who are just starting out, if you had to boil down your advice into one sentence for people who are currently not familiar with AI and are looking for a place to get started, what would you boil that one piece of advice down to?
Oh, I would say think adjacent. So I would think adjacent. Yes. So what I mean by think adjacent is that if you're in a company that doesn't have AI efforts yet, then try to raise your hand and organize things around a potential AI track, or find ways to incorporate it into your feature. If you want to move companies and move jobs and so on, then let's say your background is in healthcare, but you have no official AI experience, then there might be an AI healthcare company out there who happens to really value your healthcare experience. But if you have a way of demonstrating your interests and some level of capability around AI, like that might be the blend you're looking for. So rather than just look for a leap that some job that you have no qualifications for, look for like play to your strengths, and use the concept of adjacent to move into the AI role that you're looking for.
I think that's so key. I think a lot of people are trying to do like several pivots at once, and I often advise them like if you're trying to go from project to product and into AI and into a new vertical, like you're setting yourself up for an uphill climb. I'm not going to tell you it's impossible, right? People are amazing and have done all sorts of things. Nothing's impossible. But if you're struggling, maybe take one of those pivots out. Simplify your path a little bit, thinking about the long term. Oh no, fantastic advice. Thanks so much. So we only have time for one more segment, and that is plugs. So, do you have anything you want to plug this month?
I do. So I'm part of a group called Women Defining AI. And the Women Defining AI group, it's a Slack community. They happen to also run a few courses now and then. And what I like about it is that for women who are interested in AI but feel like they don't know where to start or feel a little intimidated to jump in, I think this community has built a really encouraging environment to help, I would say, curious novices become experts. People are sharing guides and articles in there. Like there are a whole bunch of us who are trying demos and sharing examples of what like little things that we've built. So it's just a really, really encouraging, positive environment to help people become experts in the AI space.
Oh, fantastic. How can people join?
They can join by so their URL is womendefiningai.com, and you can join from the website to become a member of their Slack community, and it's been
Okay.
great.
And that's free. And that's free.
Yes, it's $10 a month. It's $10 a month to join membership. Yeah, but compared to most courses, I think it's a pretty good deal.
Super high value. I'll be sure to include that in our show notes for sure, for sure. Excellent. Thanks so much for sharing that. It sounds super valuable. From my side, I want to plug we have another masterclass coming up, a free masterclass called The Path to AI Product Manager, where we review the skills you need to successfully lead AI projects, even if you don't have any AI experience. But you'll understand that path to build those skills and the fastest way to get them. So that's coming up soon. Check us out at AIcareerboost.com. AIcareerboost.com has the link to the latest masterclass that's coming up. We also have the doors open right now to our complete AI Product Leader Blueprint program, where you have an 8-week kickoff learning about AI and you get a lot of support in building your very first AI project and learning some of the best practices and becoming a skilled AI product leader. And lastly, we always like to plug the show shamelessly. So don't forget to like and subscribe to the show. And if you want to reach out with questions, we'd love to hear from you. Support at AI Career Boost for any people we should have on or questions we should dive into. So that's it. That's it for our show today. Another episode of AI Product Leader. Thanks again so much, Ailian, for joining us. It was a real pleasure having you, and thanks for sharing your experience. It's been a joy.
Thanks so much, Polly. I really enjoyed this. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Bye for now.